So I'm going to just spend a minute, since all the chairs are taken. We're going to do a slightly different process here, where each of the panelists are going to give a short demonstration about what exactly augmented reality is. For, I think, this purpose, it's really focusing on what has been a very quiet revolution, I think, in mobile phone capabilities. The market analysis is about $2 million in revenue for a host of companies over the last couple of years, projected to just suddenly take off over the next 3 or 4 years into the billions of dollars as these kind of applications really take hold, not only in Europe but the United States and elsewhere. And what I've done is bring together 4 different parts of the augmented reality segment. What we have with James is Blipper, a London-based, primarily advertising-focused agency. Caspar with a firm called Zapper, based up here in Edinburgh, focused in turn on products and the implementation of augmented reality. Remco has joined us from Amsterdam, a firm called Tab, which focuses on the creative aspect of the creative agency, utilizing for a host of different clients augmented reality. And then Julian joining us from Qualcomm, the US-based mobile phone chipset manufacturer, give you an idea of the power that's inherent in the handset. Before I forget, most of you would have a bag with a card in it, so if you can fish around for that. And there's also at the front T-shirts that have a little story that I'm sure Casper's going to tell you. So if I can start first with James, if you want to go up and give a brief demonstration, then we'll all come back and ask a couple of questions as before.
I'm not stealing this, by the way. I left it up here earlier. That one is mine. I'm probably the only person to come to the stage with a condiment as well, but revealed. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Shepherd. I am Head of Business Development for Blipper. For those of you who don't know, Blipper is a truly game-changing content medium. It's an application available for both iOS and Android devices that instantaneously converts the real world around us into interactive, pushed experiences for the user. So think things like press ads, outdoor ads, and in some cases, which I'll demonstrate later, product packaging. Now, given we're on a panel to talk about AR, just to throw a bit of a spanner into the works with regard to that, we always tend to distance ourselves from being an AR platform. The salient technology of Blipper is image recognition. It's the act of taking your phone out, opening the Blipper app, pointing it at a piece of collateral, and then receiving that interactive content back. Now, that interactive content can be AR, and we've seen some really nice executions using augmented reality. But at the other end of the spectrum, it can be a content bridge whereby it simply links to a website, plays a video, opens a voting mechanic, or even in some cases blip to buy and blip to vote, that sort of thing. So just move on quickly. Sorry, there's some slides here that have been taken out because I did too many for my 5-minute slot. There we go. So just a bit on the numbers we have to date. So we were founded August 17th last year. So next Friday we celebrate our 1-year anniversary. We've just passed 1 million downloads. That is split, as you'd expect, about 85% iOS, 15% Android. And in terms of geographical campaigns, 70% UK, where we are based and where the majority of our campaigns for the first 10 months of our existence took place. But now we're starting to do a lot more things globally. We've recently opened an office in New York, and we've started to do some work over there with some really exciting brands like Budweiser, Maybelline, Best Buy and Walmart. A couple of really interesting numbers, though, is the average blips per person or per user, and then the amount of dwell time you get. And this is where it becomes much more of a content medium than a content bridge, like, say, a QR code. we see an average of 7.5 blips per user, whereby they're just blipping a press ad, then doing it again, showing friends, so lots of repeat use. And then the average dwell time as well, again, getting across this message of it being a content medium rather than a content bridge. So 2.5 minutes each time people blip, interacting with your brand, be it through product packaging or press ads. So 7.5 times 2.5 is roughly about 18 minutes of dwell time per user with your brand. So what I want to go on to now is some demonstrations. This is obviously the incredibly nerve-wracking bit. Let's hope it works. There we go. So here we go. We see Blipper on the home screen here. Simply open that up. We're in what we call a code now because a lot of these campaigns are no longer live on the platform. So the first one we have here is for a campaign for Maybelline. This is a press campaign that's currently running in a number of US magazines, including US Vogue. We bring the Blipper application over the ad. And there we go. Brings that creative to life. This one's called Colour Show. And then we do something which unfortunately I'm going to have to demonstrate on myself. But this is an example of the dwell time within the application, the way people play around it. So if I align my poorly manicured nails. There we go. It's gone a bit off kilter, but we can realign the nails. If we had more time, I'd pinch and scale them as well, so we fit exactly. There we go. And then we can scroll through the different colours. Did you like that one? Was it the red? Scroll through the different colours, go to the colour selector, pick a different colour there. There we go, that was the one, wasn't it? And then there's the option to save and share and also through to the merchant page to buy the product as well. But I mean, just trying to do a really quick run through on this, you've got dwell time of about a minute. But when people are really interacting with it, it's certainly a lot longer. So on to the next one. All right, here's the reason for the condiment. So this is an example of off-pack blipping. There we go. Interactive recipe book. So open there, scroll through the recipes. Download recipe, video recipe. Really nice example of how sticky the tech is as well. Now, the interesting thing to note about this one is a number of times we get feedback from clients saying, well, this is going to be used by early adopters, really tech-savvy people. They always say people in London. But we look at the examples of the data from this sort of thing. And blips on this particular execution with the Heinz happen between 5 and 7 o'clock. They happen around meal times. We have another client, WKD, and they gave the same sort of feedback. But then when we look at the heat maps and where people are blipping, it happens in their core market. So in cities like Nottingham and Liverpool and Manchester, Glasgow, around Friday and Saturday night. So it's a real demonstration that the tech is being used by its core audience. Jurassic Park. This was for the launch of Jurassic Park on Blu-ray. And this is the simplest use of the tech. This is what we would refer to as QR codes on steroids. So this is very much a content bridge. This was a 6-sheet poster on bus stops. There we go, the 3D T-Rex leaps out of the page, and then you can click to play trailer. And that launches third-party application, in this case YouTube. But it says TV not connected on here. But you can hear it playing through my phone. How am I doing for time? Nice example of what we call blip to buy. So this was Tesco F&F. This ran across national newspapers earlier this year. So again, we scan the ad. There we go. Page comes to life. Select different outfits, and then simply tap to buy. Opens up third-party merchant page, in this case Tesco. I will do one more if I can, and then I will give the stage to somebody else. the simplest possible application you could have for this. Oyster cards, which we all have down in London. Simply blip, and you see how tatty mine is. But it's very old. Well, don't fail me now. Maybe it doesn't work because it's so tatty. There we go. Real-time travel updates.
Location sensitive?
No, it's not. It's a
good service everywhere, so it
Yeah.
can't be. Right.
That's why you probably don't believe that's true. You really hope that when you demo this, there's something that says part suspended or something, so people imagine it's real. But there we go. I'll pass the stage on to everyone else. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. So I'm trying to not make this a full course buffet, but to give you a little bit of a sense of the variety of different applications, the utility, because we're going to come back to this theme in a minute.
Right. I'm hoping it's going to appear in a minute. Hi, my name's Casper Tiquier, and I'm one of the founders and managing director of a company called Zapper. I think you'll find that a lot of these companies have AR at the end of their names. Yeah, I think we're at a sort of very interesting intersection right now within augmented reality. And I guess it kind of falls into two camps. There's the camp of, what I'd probably say is the analysts, as Matt sort of said, have these predictions from Reuters or Juniper saying that, in 2015-16 is going to be generating revenues from AR of $1.5 billion to $2 billion. And that's great. Let's hope that's the case. There's the other camp, which is probably the camp my wife frequents, which is the no one cares, and it's worth reading the bottom bit, not even a little, I'm serious. And I think, that's sort of overstating the point. I think it's not necessarily that people don't care, just people don't know. There's no one knows. And I think, as Jeff quite rightly said, is, there's augmented reality are two terrible words collided together that really actually just make little sense to anyone, not even me. It is a technology that's been around for actually a long time. It started in universities. This is the one by Dr. Simon Taylor, who's one of our founders. The very snappily titled Fast Object Localization for Mobile Augmentation Reality Applications. I don't think at the moment it's about whether the technology works or not. And again, I think some of those demonstrations are fantastic. There is great tech out there. We have our proprietary platform. There's obviously Qualcomm, other people around. So it's not really about the tech anymore. It is about the customer experience and what the point of this is. Why does anyone want it? What's the right occasion? What's the right content? What's the right experience? Because there is still something quite awkward about holding a tablet or a phone up to something in a social situation and not look like a weirdo. So we kind of tried to look at it from a slightly different start point, which is go, well, actually, what if we just try and make bite-sized entertainment and start with products? So we heard from the panel before about these sort of snackable occasions while on the move. And that's really where we've sort of started with. What are those mainstream products that we could bring to life using our technology? So one of the categories we've looked at is the humble T-shirt. Quite a good place to start. It's a staple in everyone's wardrobe. What could we do with that once we add a bit of the sort of Zapper magic to it? Well, it's about making a small piece of bite-sized entertainment. And indeed, once we have that product in people's lives, we can actually update that content whenever we want. So this is just a quick video to demonstrate that. So, I mean, a lot of those examples are neither big nor clever. A lot of them are quite sort of frivolous and fun. But what it does allow us to do is have a different way into the marketplace, because suddenly we're at point of purchase, at retail, and we're working with some of the biggest license partners around the world. And again, it means that we can kind of fish where the fish are biting in terms of the sorts of passion points that people are interested in, whether that be sport or gaming or indeed movies or whatever it might be. It's also very scalable. We started this in the US. We're just moving it into the UK and about 6 or 7 other countries around the world. And I guess to the universality point, some of those brands and licenses that we're working on within apparel are universal in those markets. So it allows us to get that footprint fairly quickly. And I think the other thing about it is, maybe one of the deceits about the apps at the moment in AR is that you really want to be able to scan everything everywhere. And unless you've got a target with you at that given time, there's precious little you can do with the app. So actually trying to get those things into people's lives that's always there with them is an important sort of step. It's not only T-shirts. I think, again, what we're trying to do is understand how we can bring this technology into different sectors where there is a sort of entertainment and a experience that we had, or a way of engaging between two individuals. So this is a product that we made with Moonpig, the video card people in the UK, and this is just one of the ads that went out recently for that. Or maybe not.
How do you make a card from Moonpig even more personal? Easy, our brand new Moonpig video cards. Just hold up your phone and they come to life with your videos. All you need is a smartphone and our app. Moonpig video cards.
Hiya, sweetheart. Really, really missing you.
Making your cards say more.
Now, Moonpig have been a fantastic partner for us, not least because they also invested in the product and actually went out and advertised it. And many times now when we're trying to explain it, people go, oh, is that the Moonpig thing? And it's just trying to find that way of people just trying to find a context for it in their daily lives that I think is so important. So really our task now is to go, how do we go into those other sort of verticals, into different product areas, and there's plenty to go for and stuff coming out over the next sort of few months. So, our sort of summary of it is, how do we make people care and how do we make people, have it in their lives? We believe it's about AR-enabled products and entertainment experiences, just bringing a bit of fun to people's lives, really, through our platform, which is Appa.
Great, thanks very much. Very okay. Remco, do you have a few minutes? Yeah, sure. Yeah? Okay. So you can all play with the cards and T-shirts. I see a few around. It's good. Maybe you can find some Heinz ketchup.
Okay,
right.
so good. My name is Remco. I'm from Tabworld Media, and basically we're a creative agency and using augmented reality techniques by different technology providers, and we're sort of bridging the gap between advertisers or people who want to use augmented reality and these technology firms. Today I don't have a really big presentation about my company with me, so please, I see everybody with a laptop, go to our company website. And but I'm going to present a small game to you that we built over a year ago, and also to show you that this is already a sustainable technology. So we built this little game for a family theme park called the Efteling in the Netherlands. And they have about 3 million visitors each year. And this family theme park is completely based on fairy tales. So everything in this theme park is a fairy tale. And one of their sponsors, it's a bank, and they had this ATM machine out there, which they turned into a big golden vault. And around that golden vault, they also created this fairy tale that was written by this boy that you see him there on the left side. Or on the right side for you guys. And they asked us, can we use these new mobile technologies to bring these fairy tales to life? And so we came in and talked to these guys, and they said, yeah, because we have a lot of apps, but these apps are so one-dimensional. They're great games, but they are for users at home. So can we use augmented reality as a technology to bring the fairy tales to life in our theme park. So good. Doesn't matter that we don't have any sound here because I'm going to talk over it. This is what you see. This is the theme park where these people are entering. And they're entering in the beginning of the theme park where this ATM machine is, basically. And they had this book where the fairy tale is presented in. So what we did with the app first is that we have 2 segments in it. One of the segments is that you have to go to a mobile web page because people, aren't really savvy with downloading in the App Store. We just created this mobile web page that has a download button on it, and says, okay, you can download the app called Layer, which is the technology provider in there. So within this Layer app, we created this channel where you could see the whole story played out in augmented reality, and you could also hear the story. And we had this little game in there where you can collect the fairies, and then it teaches you a little bit about collecting and saving money, which is the plot of the story. It's a very simple game there, and people, it only takes a minute, but it is being done at a place where people, are entering the park and have to wait there, and people are. When they leave the park, people are waiting for each other, and they have some time to kill, and then they play these games with their kids. So what have we learned from this game? Well, first, kids and parents, they both love it. First of all, the kids, they really like it that all of these fairies are flying around. And then on the other hand, the dads, that's the most fun part. They try to explain this to their kids, what's happening there. But augmented reality brings such a magic new thing to your mobile phone that it sometimes it's indescribable, and the impact of using augmented reality is also very special there. What we've seen is that the number of visitors are ramping up. So from the beginning, we only had a couple of hundred visitors, and now it's ramping up beautifully there. And it's basically a good success because the company decided to run it for the 2nd year. And what is very important for us here is that we had to have good media support. So we did that. We had this promotional film out there, and we had a lot of advertising around it. And another thing which is very important in a theme park, of course, is to have free Wi-Fi, because these games, they take a couple of megabytes to download there. So we had free Wi-Fi there. And we had to make it very intuitive. So we made the choice to make a really, really simple game. And I've seen some incredible games here over the past few days. But this is a very simple game. And what is also very important for us here is that it was really integrated into the whole theme of the park. So everything had to fit here. The surroundings had to fit, the story had to fit. And because of that, I think it's a good success there. So that was my short presentation. Thank you.
Remco. We've got one other short presentation from Julian from Qualcomm that will describe a wee bit about the technology and the power in the handsets that make this so widely available.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Is the mic on? You guys hear me? My name's Julian Harris. I look after developer relations for Western Europe in Qualcomm. In the broadest sense, Qualcomm are a wireless technology company. It's a $15 billion a year business for us. We license our Snapdragon chipset into a number of handsets and manufacturers, including Samsung, HTC, Nokia, in fact, pretty much every handset that you'll ever have seen, and a bunch that you've probably never heard of as well. In 2010, and this figure is just bonkers, and I do say it with some pride. In 2010, we invested 23% of our gross revenue back into research and development, which is $6.8 million a day. And I think that's pretty impressive. And one of those technologies is Vuforia, which is our vision-based augmented reality SDK. I am going to software development kit. When I talk about augmented reality, I talk about it from a technical perspective today in particular. So I'm not talking about how it faces the consumer, but I do applaud all of the guys who've stood up and spoken about the fact that the consumer's not really going to be calling it augmented reality. It's just going to be a pleasurable experience for them in one way, shape or form. So what I've got is 4 short videos. which just show reels, which basically look at a bunch of applications that have been produced using our software development kit. We have over 30,000 downloads of the software development kit, which is compatible with over 400 phones, phone models, and over 1,200 applications are now being published in both Google Play and on iOS as well. So we're compatible with both platforms. So if we could jump to one of the first videos, which is just a quick snapshot of a bunch of stuff that's been done using Vuforia. See Blipper here. We did with Sesame Street, which shows 3D markering and multi-markering capabilities. And then in the interest of time, if we can just show one more, if we could just go to James May Science Stories. The app's great, the show reel makes me cringe a little, you'll see why. So James May Science Stories was, the concept originally came from Plum Pictures, who are the TV production company behind Man Lab and the other...
Now, if this car seems familiar, it is of course the Ford Model T, the first mass-produced automobile, and one that at one point threatened to take over the whole planet. Between 1908 and 1927, 15 million Model Ts were produced, and at one point 40% of all cars in the UK were a Model T.
So
A whopping 20 horsepower four-cylinder engine and a top speed of an incredible face-melting 45 miles
in the
an
Science
hour.
Museum. I think it's about 8 exhibits. It not only works in the museum, but you'll also see here it works out of the museum as well. So you can quite literally take a teeny tiny James May home with you. I think that's what's the lovely thing as well. So we got huge press coverage for this, not least of which because James was there at the launch.
Ford used mass production
we reached about
techniques on a
280
vast
million
scale,
people through the
declaring
advertising
the man who
alone,
places the part does not fasten it.
because we
The man who
broadcast
puts
on
the
BBC,
nut does
BBC
not
Click,
tighten
BBC
it,
Worldwide,
which
BBC
sounds
News,
like nobody
and
was
so
doing
on.
their
So,
job properly.
and what was lovely about that is people really did refer to it as a teeny tiny James May. Nobody talked about augmented reality or anything along those lines. which was great. And augmented reality in this instance it's one component of the overall application. And again, that's what we thought was delightful in getting involved in the application. Is it wasn't just augmented reality for augmented reality's sake, and it was one component of the application.
Overview of the technologies and some of the applications, and I want to start with James and just to ask a little bit about what you think the drivers are here. Is this a technology looking for a creative solution? Is it a creative application applied to a technology? How do you view this yet?
Well, I think as a number of people have touched on it shouldn't be about the technology as far as the consumer is concerned. I mean, marketing's about people, not about technology. I think what we need in the short term, because adoption is still relatively low with this, because it's new, because it's a new behaviour. We're asking people to take their phones out of their pockets to scan something and to get content back. That's entirely new for them. So I think what we probably need in the short term are some really compelling user stories. It's got to move away from the wow for the sake of wow, and deliver content that's going to make people come back and do it again when they see that call to action, when they see the Blipper B or the Zapper Z, so they know once they've done it once, it's something they want to try again. I think to do that, we've got to look for really compelling user stories. Right.
On that point, Casper, you showed a variety of different products with the technology embedded. How much of a lesson or learning process is it for the consumers? Is that a hurdle towards adoption? How do you get over that? How do you explain it?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the thing that we probably spend the majority of our time on is the messaging in store and in point of sale and at retail. The thing we learned very quickly from the work we did in the States is that you've got, if you're in Macy's in New York, you've got 2 seconds to explain what this T-shirt is and what it does. And it's actually quite challenging to do that. Really the only way to do it is to either have some sort of video there or to have someone literally there looking at the T-shirt itself, because people tend to be like moths to a flame when they see someone doing those sorts of things. So I think the messaging is paramount. What we did in the first instance, which we changed, was we probably spent too much time actually talking about the instruction of what you need to do, and less about the payoff, actually. And really, it's more about trying to make people understand that this product, this T-shirt or whatever it might be, is linked to something to do with a phone. And the minute you can get that across, then you're away. But yeah, I think it's more quite a classic sort of marketing task actually in terms of making people understand the proposition.
Right, Remco. Go ahead.
If you don't mind. Just to follow on from what Casper was saying, it is dangling that carrot in a way with the call to action, and talking about exclusive, unlocking, things like that, that people, to encourage people to want to do it, because the Blipper B on its own just isn't enough at the moment. We certainly hope it will be one day, when people associate that with the Facebook F or the Twitter T, and they know instantly what to do. But certainly in the short term, there does need to be that certain sense of encouraging people to pick up their phone and interact with something.
Right. I'm just want to come back to Remco for a minute. Your experience has been both agencies, similar to what Blipper does, but also moving into a theme park environment, trying to explain this to a bank. I'm just kind of curious. How do you go in and pitch something like this as a creative agency? Is it something new and novel? How do you go about doing that?
Well, in this case, it was pretty easy because the bank and the theme park are already partners.
Okay.
Right. So we were talking to both of them at the same time because we were pitching a story for using a mobile app, or in that sense, augmented reality within a mobile app for the whole theme park. But then again, for making a whole mobile app for a theme park, it's a kind of big project, especially when you use innovative technology inside. So first of all, we thought, okay, is there a smaller project together, that we can set up and learn from that? And so we did. And
each of the companies use different technologies, and you, I gather, use Layer. You've used other types of platforms. Are there distinctions, capabilities? Are there differences, or are they kind of the same by and large?
Well, there's different platforms. For example, they tend to move at the same pace, but every platform has a different background. For example, Layer is a very marketing-oriented company that is using this technology. Genio, that's from a company called Metaio, is much more of a technology company. You know, they made this augmented reality for car companies. Maybe you've seen the videos on YouTube where a guy puts on glasses and then opens the hood of a BMW, and then it shows him how to change.
Right, you're an instant auto mechanic with this tool.
For example, yeah. And Orasma, of course, a UK-based firm. They're much more focused on advertising, like the Qualcomm SDK allows you to do. So they have different backgrounds and different capabilities, and of course, they're developing in different directions, but ultimately with the same goal. And I think Google now is the one who's going to be the icebreaker in taking this really mass market.
Right, interesting. Julian, you come from the technology, the handset side of the equation, and you've been through all the various iterations of the so-called platform. How has this changed? What's happened in the last couple of years to really contribute?
I think there's a number of things. I mean, augmented reality as a technology has been around for a very long time. It's suddenly grown up. And I think the ball is just now starting to roll from the consumer's perspective as well. So there have been some delightful consumer experiences that we've seen in these show reels, and we can see around about us. The computational capacity of the handsets has increased quite dramatically as well. So we would love to think that a lot of that was to do with the Snapdragon chipset, of course. But smartphones are in consumers' hands. Now, one of the reasons that we invest a lot of time in distributing technology for free to the creative and design agencies and the innovative application developers is to drive consumers' consumption of those handsets as well. So they're just taking full advantage of what the phones will do. Screens are absolutely fantastic now. The camera capabilities are great as well, and all that lends itself particularly well to this kind of a visual application in that respect.
Are there questions out there now that you've seen a number of the applications? Are you interested? Yep, over there.
I guess this is a follow-on from the last point, but I'd be interested to hear from any of you who think that there are hardware barriers at the moment to the adoption, and give us an idea of what might come on a 5 to 10 year view, whether that's the camera, the processing, the graphics, anything else in the form factor.
I mean, from our perspective, from a technology perspective, we don't see any, and nobody is telling us about them. And we would love to be able to address those with our handset licensees if that were the case. So I'm not aware of any, but if you guys see any.
Certainly not from a technological standpoint. So, I mean, from our perspective, it's less about the technology. I mean, the technology's there to do it. It's just about having that technology in as many pockets as we possibly can. So it's, increasing smartphone proliferation. I think in the UK we're at about 50% now, smartphones. That number just needs to keep growing.
Just to Casper, a lot of the things that we just saw out there to this point were tablet focused. Do you find that you're designing or paying attention to the product for a tablet or for a handset, to pick up on James' point?
I think we've always got to take the view that we've got to start with the worst case scenario on the lowest performing phone. I mean, at the moment we haven't looked to split out the paths between our development. So we're just trying to make sure that the packages are as small as they can be, that they're going to run fast, that they're going to be available on Wi-Fi and 3G. I mean, I think the interesting thing about, to your point about, where will we be in 5-10 years' time, I think what people, when you go in and speak to people, what they really want to do is not have an app. They'd rather have it in their part of their camera, functionality on their phone, and they'd like to be able to look around everywhere and stuff happen. I don't see that that's impossible. That does get down to some interesting things about just processing power and the amount of information that's that's going to come down, and actually battery life. But I don't see that that's these are all things that will occur eventually, and I find it rather frightening.
There are other questions out there? Yep.
What's your point of view, just for everyone, what's your point of view on the Google Glass project? I'm really eager to hear your opinion on that.
I think they do great videos. is what I think. I think it's a fantastic, fantastic video. Look, you know, they're Google. I think it's, you know, to be able to do that is pretty impressive. To understand exactly how it's going to work, you know, in people's real lives, which is, you know, the thing that we're always challenged with is, you know, most time people go, well, that's great, you can do it off a T-shirt, but who's going to buy the second T-shirt? And isn't it just a bit of a gimmick? And, you know, isn't this the latest fad? And, you know, so I think it's brilliant having someone like Google around personally, because I think to the point of they are going to help people understand this technology more broadly. Will glasses take off? Don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the point I'm making. Again, it's great to have Google involved in this and sort of helping getting the word out there and getting the behaviour out there. I can't personally see anyone walking around wearing these glasses. Having said that, we can't wait to get hold of the SDK and start playing around with it. So.
Right. Well, listen, I appreciate the time. We're running a little bit over. So these guys will be around this afternoon. So if you want to grab them during a lunch break, be delighted to do it. Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.